Hello, everybody. Movie Watcher 123 here, and today for this live stream, we are going to be talking about the best and worst moments of one of my favorite Nickelodeon shows, SpongeBob SquarePants. That's right. The best and worst moments of SpongeBob SquarePants. And once my friends join in, we will begin. Did you know that SpongeBob SquarePants has been on the air since 1999? I'm like, wow, that's awesome. It's one of my favorite Nickelodeon shows. So if you have any episodes you wish to talk about, do feel free to put them in the comments below, or if you're in the StreamYard studio, put it in the private chat. Okay, I'm gonna put down the first episode. Hang on. Here's the first episode. Wanted. Here it is. In episode, this is the first episode of the series. And in this episode, SpongeBob was just starting his day off by exercising, saying that today is the big day, and he's about to work at the Krusty Krab. He didn't want to do it. Just as he was about to walk away, Patrick decided to motivate him into getting that job. So this is the first episode to come out. And let me tell you, it's one of my episodes. This is why I have the SquarePants as my profile pic for this live stream. Okay. This is the one when SpongeBob to work, saying that he has to be in top physical condition to Gary. And no spoilers for this one. Maybe I have to tell you, but he was lifting weights that have like baby toys on them. He uses them as weights. So yes, SpongeBob SquarePants tries to be muscular by lifting those kind of weights, but it didn't work out so well. So yeah. Okay, I give that episode a 10 out of 10. All right, next one. Okay. All right. Next one. Reef blower. Now, in this particular episode, Squidward was just without a care in the world front yard. Now, this is the only episode when the characters don't talk. Squidward was just enjoying his day when he saw a clam in his front yard, and then he has to kick it away, and then it landed on SpongeBob's property. Then SpongeBob goes to the back of his house to get out his reef blower to blow it away. And it did. He tries to blow it away as far away as he could, but then it landed on Squidward's property. And not only that, but a pile of sand as well. Squidward was then eating a plate of food, but then a pile of sand landed on top of him, and then SpongeBob had to blow it away. Unfortunately, he tries to blow the pile of sand again off his property, but then later his reef blower starts going on the fritz, and SpongeBob had to take it off and put it down to fix it. He activate the ignition, but it didn't work, so he had to pull it away as far away as possible to activate it again. It did work, but unfortunately it was so massive that it started sucking up everything, sucking up all the water in the ocean. That was a big mistake. SpongeBob's reef blower sucked up so much water that the reef blower couldn't hold it all in, and it exploded. SpongeBob was glad to get his property clean, but for Squidward, as a result of that reef blower explosion, all the sand came onto his property and the clam he got rid of earlier in that episode. So, yep, so much for Squidward's quiet afternoon. I mean, I'd be like him if my property was like that. Okay, I give that episode another 10 out of 10. Okay. Let me put down the next one. Okay. Here's the next one. Tea at the Tree Dome. Now, in this particular episode, it begins when SpongeBob was just going jellyfishing at one of his favorite places, Jellyfish Fields. He tries to catch one of the four stairs quietly, but just as he was about to catch it, it got away, and he caught himself instead. But that wasn't the only problem. While he was unsuccessful at catching the jellyfish, he hears screaming and yelling nearby, and he sees Sandy Cheeks fighting a huge clam. SpongeBob didn't know her at first, and he looks up his nature book and sees that Sandy is a land squirrel. At first, Sandy was successful in defeating the clam by shoving it into the ground so hard, but unfortunately it wasn't enough to keep him down, and the clam got up, chased after Sandy, and ate her up. SpongeBob reluctantly tries to rescue Sandy by opening up the clam to let Sandy out. But unfortunately, I thought it was him that did it, but Sandy was the one that forcefully opened the clam. And then SpongeBob goes back at the clam to fight it, but unfortunately, when Sandy got out, the clam closed up and took SpongeBob instead. This time, Sandy Cheeks was determined to take it down, and she did. She gave the clam as many blows as she could, and she kicked it so hard that it went flying away. Later, Sandy invited SpongeBob to her tree dome to have fun and mingle with each other with tea and cookies. But unfortunately, unbeknownst to SpongeBob, that he can only breathe with water, and without water he can shrivel up. So sponges cannot live without water. Later in the episode, SpongeBob starts to shrivel up when he's deprived of water. Then he tries to deal with it, but Patrick started helping SpongeBob out by teaching him how to greet Sandy Cheeks by holding up his pinky finger. He wanted to get out of there as quick as possible because he needed water. Unfortunately, just as the episode was about to end, SpongeBob and Patrick were deceased, but thanks to Sandy saving their lives before the end, they were revived with water. Now SpongeBob learns that he cannot go into Sandy's tree dome house if he doesn't have water to breathe. It looks like SpongeBob and Patrick have learned that the hard way. Okay, 3 episodes down, and if anyone wishes to join in at any time, please do so. Okay, let me put the next episode down. Okay, next one, Bubble Stand. In this episode, SpongeBob was just starting off his day on a high note, saying, "The water is shimmering, scallops are chirping, da 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 da." Then he decides to build a bubble stand with tools so loud that it bothers Squidward. You know, Squidward, he wants to have a peaceful day. But SpongeBob was determined to build his bubble stand by charging people 25 cents to blow a bubble. He always does this bubble blowing, quote, technique. First go like this, spin around, stop, double take 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and pelvic thrust. Woo! Woo! Stop on your right foot. Don't forget it. And now it's time to bring it around town. Bring it around town. Then we do this and this and that and this and that and this and that. And then blow the bubble. Like that. Then Patrick wanted to do it. SpongeBob taught him the bubble blowing technique. But as many bubbles they like to blow, the one bubble that really pissed Squidward off is when SpongeBob blew a bubble of an elephant. And when it went into Squidward's house, it popped and then it let out a loud trumpeting sound. So yes. Then Squidward wanted to blow some bubbles too. But unfortunately, he did not. Oh, hang on. Oh, hello, Jazz, Ratchet, and Clank. Nice to see you. Anyway, back what I was saying. Where was I? Oh, yes. Now Squidward wants to get in on the bubble blowing action. But then if people didn't know how to blow bubbles, SpongeBob would charge people 25 cents for lessons. Yes, you heard that right. 25 cents to blow a bubble and 25 cents for lessons. Unfortunately, Squidward didn't learn how to do the bubble blowing technique until later in the episode. Then he blew a bubble so hard, so big, not only did it carry his house away, but along with him instead. Then later in the episode, when the bubble popped, everything started to sound like it was an earthquake going on with a loud rumbling. So for this episode, I give it a 10 out of 10. Bubble blowing. Nobody needs to learn how to do the bubble blowing technique. It's quite easy. But if you want to, go right ahead. Okay, I'm going to put down the next episode. All right. I give both stand a 10 out of 10. All right. Next one. Ripped pants. This episode started off with Sandy and SpongeBob r- relaxing on the beaches of Goo Lagoon. Then SpongeBob started to make Sandy laugh by doing funny antics, saying that, "Hey Sandy, look, I'm Sandy." And he started to impersonate Squidward like, "Hey Sandy, who am I?" That made Sandy laugh. "Hello, SpongeBob. Could you please keep it down? I'm trying to be boring." Ha! SpongeBob. He's funny. Did anyone order 20 pepperoni and sand pizzas? Yeah. Yep. SpongeBob SquarePants. You never cease to amaze me. Anyway, was that it? No. Later, Sandy and SpongeBob go with Larry the Lobster to start lifting weights. But then, when SpongeBob starts to lift his own weights by using count 'em, two, he couldn't lift it. But unfortunately, he was trying to lift it so hard that, ready for this? His pants ripped open, and lots of people saw it, and they began to laugh. Yup, they all laughed at SpongeBob's ripped pants. So, seeing that this is gonna make people laugh, he keeps doing it over and over until later people started getting tired of it. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to SpongeBob, the joke got old fast. Now SpongeBob has to win his friends back by whatever means necessary. So he gathered up with 3 other people and performed in a concert singing Ripped Pants on stage. At the end of this episode, SpongeBob's underwear ripped open and he was completely naked. Yup, that's a keeper right there. And I give this episode another 10 out of 10. Yep, another 10 out of 10. Okay, let me see here. Next episode. JELLIFISHING. All right. Next one, jellyfishing. In this episode, SpongeBob and Patrick saw a jellyfish outside when they were about to go get their jellyfish nets to capture it. So they ran through these pipes and then they rolled down the ropes, but unfortunately they got rope burn because of that. So they went to go get their jellyfish nets to go jellyfishing. But when they saw a jellyfish go by SpongeBob's house, they decided to go after it. But as a result, they both got stung repeatedly, and that's gotta hurt. They captured the jellyfish and it pissed him off. They made it mad. So yes, if you see a jellyfish, don't touch it because those tentacles hurt. Jellyfishes are like the bees of Bikini Bottom. Oh yes, I forgot to mention, SpongeBob SquarePants is the Nickelodeon show that takes place in the fictional city of Bikini Bottom. Now, back to what I was saying. They wanted Squidward to join them, but unfortunately Squidward had other plans by going for a ride on his bike. Things were going okay for Squidward. Unfortunately, as he was riding his bike, he wasn't looking where he was going, and a jellyfish went into his mouth. And after he spit it out, Squidward said to the jellyfish, "Oh, stupid jellyfish, beat it!" The jellyfish was stinging Squidward so much that he lost control of his bike and accidentally rolled down the cliff and crashed in a tremendous explosion, and he was severely injured all over his body. SpongeBob and Patrick tried to make Squidward feel better by whatever means necessary. First, they tried to give him some soup, but unfortunately, the bandages were covering his mouth that he couldn't eat the soup. So Patrick decided to feed him. Unfortunately, it was hot, and Patrick had to blow on it, but he was blowing on it so hard that it went all over Squidward's face and it started to burn him. Unfortunately, that didn't work. And another idea, playing music on his very own net. SpongeBob tried to blow into the clarinet, but his lips were dry. So he had to lick his lips all over to get it right. But either. So they had one final thing to make Squidward's best day ever: jellyfishing at jellyfish fields, where wild jellyfish roam just waiting to be captured. So yes, one was coming and they wanted Squidward to catch it. Thinking that Squidward doesn't know anything about jellyfishing, they decided to teach him how it's done. Unfortunately, when SpongeBob and Patrick were rolling down the hill trying to catch that jellyfish, they both got stung repeatedly again. And then a jellyfish came by and stung Squidward in the nose that he too wants to capture it. He did, but when he caught the jellyfish, a bigger problem arose. Squidward starts hitting another bigger jellyfish repeatedly with the net that it woke up, and now it's chasing Squidward. What you couldn't see in that episode is when the bigger jellyfish zapped Squidward so much that a flash of light came, and he was more injured, worse than before. SpongeBob and Patrick apologized to Squidward what happened, and they got him a jellyfish for a present. You know, from yesterday. You're not still mad, are you? And Patrick's like, yup, he's still mad. So they ran away after Squidward opened the jar, releasing the jellyfish. SpongeBob and Patrick were stung by the jellyfish again, but that wasn't the worst part. At the end of the episode, the giant jellyfish came back again and zapped Squidward, causing his glass cast to break into pieces. So I give this episode 10 out of 10 on my part. I gotta tell you, you mess with the jellyfish, you're gonna get stung. Okay, next episode. Hang on a sec. All right. Next one. Plankton. Now, in this episode, the Krusty Krab is the place where SpongeBob works at, right? I told you that in the other episode I just talked with you about. SpongeBob was just about to give Squidward a Krabby Patty to give to the customer, but then it starts running all over the place like crazy. And just as it was about to go out the door, Mr. Krabs intercepted it, and it turns out Plankton tried to steal it so he can uncover the Krabby Patty's secret formula. That's right. Plankton. He's the owner of the Chum Bucket across the street from the Krusty Krab. Nobody goes to his restaurant because they don't like chum. They'd rather go for Krabby Patties at the Krusty Krab. So yes, later in the episode, SpongeBob was going home until he heard Plankton. He didn't see Plankton because he was so small, and he accidentally squashed him. Plankton wanted SpongeBob to give him a Krabby Patty for his supposedly birthday, so that he can uncover the Krabby Patty secret formula. Unfortunately, SpongeBob knew about this and politely refused. So later that night, Plankton went over to SpongeBob's house and waited for SpongeBob to go to sleep so that way Plankton can go into SpongeBob's brain and control him using a controller that Plankton had. So Plankton went through Squidward's house, then Patrick's, then Plankton controlled SpongeBob, went over to the Krusty Krab to get the Krabby Patty, and then he controls him and makes him walk to the chum bucket. Unfortunately for SpongeBob, he didn't want to, but Plankton was determined. Just Plankton was about to tell SpongeBob to drop the Krabby Patty into the analyzer so he can figure out the formula, but unfortunately, Plankton wanted to eat the Krabby Patty so bad. He tries to jump on it, but unfortunately he bounced off and went into the analyzer instead. Well, unfortunately for Plankton, he did not get the Krabby Patty he wanted, and he got trapped in the computer, aka Karen. I give this episode a 10 out of 10. Yeah. Okay. I'll put down the next episode. Just a minute. Next one. Naughty Nautical Neighbors. Now, hang on a sec. Now, in this episode, Naughty Nautical Neighbors, Squidward made a souffle in his kitchen and wanted to eat it. But unfortunately, his quiet time was interrupted by SpongeBob and Patrick blowing bubbles and blowing secret messages into them. Squidward, however, was getting sick and tired of it, and he decides to sabotage their friendship between SpongeBob and Patrick. So yeah, here's the thing. He then tells Patrick as SpongeBob, Patrick, you are friend to something. I forgot what he said. And then Patrick asks SpongeBob, do you really think that, SpongeBob? SpongeBob, Patrick, yeah, well, I think you're ugly. Yellow is ugly. And then SpongeBob is like, Patrick, what are you talking about? And then Squidward blows another bubble, saying SpongeBob, I no longer wish to know you. You give bottom dwellers a bad name. He does more speech bubbles. If I had $1 for every brain you don't have, I'd have $1. Ha! Good one. Hey Patrick, I hear there's a job opening down at the pet shop as some newspapers. Then that makes you a big dummy, you dummy. Yeah, well, so are you. Right, you're a turkey. What's that? It's what you are. Well, you're a bigger one. Yeah, well, you're still yellow. Hey, and you know what else is yellow? What? You are. Yeah? Well, it doesn't matter what you call me because I never want to see you again anyway. SpongeBob slammed his door after he was saying, "Ah, tartar sauce." They both ran away angry and upset. Patrick closed his door on top of him and he was flattened. Ouch. That's gotta hurt. And that made Squidward laugh so much. Squidward was outside his house eating his souffle he made. Unfortunately, he started swallowing the food he was eating along with the fork and he started choking. And just as he was about to die, Patrick reluctantly the Heimlich maneuver on Squidward, unchoking him and getting the fork out, saving his life. So yes, anytime you're eating food, be careful not to choke on it because that's very dangerous. So Patrick decided to be Squid's friend. So he brought him over to his house so he could play music, but unfortunately Squid was about to play his clarinet, and unfortunately it made Patrick sleepy. Just as Squid pulled Patrick away, he threw out his back, and then SpongeBob said, "Yeah, scissors, just a minute, hang on." Come on, don't you seem busy? Oh, back to business. In this episode, SpongeBob wants to become Squidward's friend, but unfortunately, it did not go so well. SpongeBob and Patrick were competing to become Squidward's friend, but they were being overly competitive. SpongeBob was being Squidward's friend alright. He was trying to play the bassinet, but unfortunately he was playing so poorly. So yes, Naughty Nautical Neighbors is one of my favorite episodes of SpongeBob SquarePants. So, unfortunately for SpongeBob, he broke Squidward's bassinet, and that pissed Squidward off so much that he threw him out of his house. Yep. Now Patrick wants to become Squidward's friend again, but this time Squidward couldn't take it. So Squidward had to come up with a plan to get those two back together and out of his hair. So Squidward came up with an idea of inviting them over to his house for a dinner party. But long story short, at the end of the episode, SpongeBob and Patrick became friends, and Squidward wanted them both out of his house, which was already destroyed because of the massive bubbles that they were both burping so much. Yep, that's what happens. Okay, if you people have any episodes you wish to talk about, please do so. Okay. Hang on a sec. All right. Oh, here's one from Nitza Munoz, Boating School. Now, in this episode of Boating School, SpongeBob woke up one morning to attend boating school because he wanted to get a driver's license, and his instructor is none other than Mrs. Puff. I tell you right now, SpongeBob drives so poorly. You know that? And SpongeBob was about to take the course, but unfortunately he floored it and crashed into the lighthouse, causing Mrs. Puff to puff up so big like a balloon. So yeah. So later in the episode, Patrick decided to help SpongeBob out by any means necessary, without letting Mrs. Puff know that SpongeBob was cheating. Just as things were going great with the driving course, SpongeBob was about to head towards the finish line, and SpongeBob admitted to Mrs. Puff that he was in fact cheating. Unfortunately, SpongeBob didn't realize that he let go of the steering wheel, which causes the boat to steer out of control, and yet again it crashed into the lighthouse, and then Mrs. Puff went to the hospital again. Yep. That's what happens when you have poor driving. You're supposed to have good driving skills. Sheesh. SpongeBob drives so poorly, so you want to be careful not to teach him how to drive because he's going to fail anyway. Okay. If you have any other episodes you wish to talk about, you know what you have to do. Oh, here's another one. Whatever happened to SpongeBob? This episode. Let me tell you. Oh, before I go on, I give Boating School a 10 out of 10. Good one. Now, this episode is the title to Who Bob Wet Pants. SpongeBob woke up one morning and tries to start his day off on a high note by hanging out with his friends, but unfortunately he was, well, being a pain to them. A real big pain. He tries to embrace Gary, his pet snail, but unfortunately SpongeBob hugged Gary so hard that it broke his shell and he got mad. Yep, that wasn't the worst part. This was the worst part. He bumped into Patrick, his best friend. Unfortunately, he ruined the cake that Patrick was about to give to his mom, and then right after or before Patrick went into his house to do it again, he called SpongeBob, quote, idiot boy. Then Squidward, then Sandy, and Mr. Krabs. Thinking that they don't want him anymore, SpongeBob decides to leave Bikini Bottom for good and not coming back. And he moved to New Kelp City. But unfortunately, before he did that, SpongeBob fell down a cliff and bumped his head and developed amnesia. And he doesn't know who he is. So, as reading the note that SpongeBob left his friends scramble to find him and bring him back home. So he tries to look for work at New Kelp City, but unfortunately, unbeknownst to him, SpongeBob forgot about the no blowing bubble policy. Then later one night in New Kelp City, he came across the bubble poppin' boys. Yes, that's right. The notorious gang of New Kelp City, the bubble poppin' boys. They don't want nobody blowing bubbles on their turf under no circumstances. Well, long story short, at the end of the episode, his friends were glad that he was back home and they apologized for running him out of town after they called him Idiot Boy. And then SpongeBob is never leaving Bikini Bottom, causing Squidward to remove his brain and throw it away. And I give this episode a big 0 because I don't like it when SpongeBob's friends scream and yell at him and call him Idiot Boy and made him cry. No. So I give this a big 0. That's my rating. Now let me ask you, how would you rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 10? Don't be afraid to tell me. Give me your best honest answer. Rate this show on a scale of 1 to 10. While you do that, I'm going to put down the next episode. Let me see here. Here's another one from Nitza Munoz. Pizza delivery. Now, in this episode, the Krusty Krab was just about to close until a customer called because he was hungry. He wanted pizza, but then Mr. Krabs said to the caller that they do have pizza. Unfortunately, they don't. They don't deliver. But Mr. Krabs was persistent and has SpongeBob and Patrick deliver the pizza to the customer. But unfortunately, Squidward has SpongeBob drive the boat. So yeah, I'll tell you what else happened in this episode. Squidward orders SpongeBob to back the boat up, which he did. Unfortunately, it was going so far that it ran out of gas in the middle of nowhere. Pizza getting cold, Squidward getting mad and upset, saying, "Oh, how could this get any worse?" Unfortunately for Squidward, the boat ran out of gas, but when he kicked it, the gas somehow filled up the tank and the boat drove away. Yep, that was a big mistake. So now they have to deliver the pizza on foot. Later in the episode, they were caught up in a terrible sea tornado. Then they walked so far they actually got exhausted. Squidward, however, was getting hungry. SpongeBob was talking about what the pioneers did many years ago. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, they try to to tell SpongeBob was pointing to the right direction, but Squidward thought he was going the right way, but he wasn't. Unbeknownst to him, SpongeBob was pointing into the right direction. So here's how the episode ended. SpongeBob and Squidward got to the caller's address to deliver the pizza, but unfortunately they forgot his drink, his Diet Dr. Kelp. So that what caused the caller to throw the pizza back in his face, yelling at SpongeBob, slamming the door, and made SpongeBob cry. But unfortunately, it pissed Squidward off, and he decided to take action by going back to the customer and shoving it in his face, saying, "Well, this one's on the house." Did he change his mind? He sure did. Ate the whole thing in one bite. No drink? Nah. Now take me home. Are you kidding? We have just enough time to make it back to work. Work? Oh, my aching tentacles. Yup. That's what happened. You never ever want to be yelled at by the customer just because you forgot something in his or her order. Okay, I'm going to talk about one more episode, then I'm going to end the stream. Okay, what episode to talk about next? All right, here it is. Home Sweet Pineapple. Now, in this episode, this group of nematodes were walking around and devouring everything in their path. First, they were hungry. They ate a rock. Then they ate a boat, which someone was driving, and then after that, they were thirsty. And the only thing they could find to drink was SpongeBob's pineapple house, which they decided to drink up. Everything was getting smaller. SpongeBob thought that he was huge. So was Gary. Unfortunately, no. His house was shrinking. He decided to call Squidward for help, but unfortunately, everything that the nematodes were shrinking shrunk along with the house. Gary's food bowl, the foghorn alarm, even his phone, everything. Unfortunately, once they were done, they ran away. SpongeBob's house was no more. Patrick and Squidward came along to see what was going on. SpongeBob's house was gone completely off the map. And SpongeBob thought, what am I going to do? Where am I going to live? Thinking this is a happy day for Squidward, he decided to wish SpongeBob good luck somewhere else. I'm going to miss you. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. So SpongeBob and Patrick decided to rebuild his pineapple house again. And unfortunately, it was too small for SpongeBob to live in, and it broke apart. And SpongeBob decided to move back in with his mom and dad. But unfortunately, Patrick didn't want SpongeBob to move away. And so Patrick offered SpongeBob and Gary to sleep with him, which he gladly accepted. But unfortunately, Patrick's loud snoring was keeping SpongeBob awake. Then, unfortunately, Patrick woke up thinking that there was a spider and started hitting SpongeBob with his own house. After a terrible stay with Patrick, he decides to crash at Squidward's house instead. Unfortunately, Squidward didn't like that. So next day was the day that SpongeBob was going to move away from Bikini Bottom, moving back in with his parents, causing Patrick to cry. Just as SpongeBob was about to leave, he planted the pebble into the ground, right where SpongeBob's house used to be. Unfortunately, SpongeBob didn't know that pebble he put in the ground was a seed, and one tear caused it to grow his house back. That's right. His house is back. And then he tells Squidward, "Ah, Squidward, isn't this great? I'm back forever." Forever? Yep, that's right. Forever. I thought SpongeBob was about to move away. Yeah, right. I give this episode a 10 out of 10. And pizza delivery, I give a 10 out of 10 also. Yep, that's right. Okay, this has been a successful live stream. I don't understand why nobody else decides to join in. I did this live stream for you guys, but I'll have to come up with another live stream to do next time. So I'm going to put up another post on my community tab asking you which live stream I should do next. Comment below which one you want me to do. And I would like to thank anybody or everyone for watching and putting down their suggestions. So I would like to thank all of you for watching, and I will see you next time with another live stream. So I hope you all have a good day, and I'm Movie Watcher 123, and I will be in your movie seat through and through. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.